I'm Dr. Vibha Sharma, Associate Professor and Head, Department of Public Administration, MCM Devi College, Chandigarh. Today, I'll present to you a module number 2, that is Central Administration. Under this module, we will understand the Union Executive, we will understand about the President, his election. Besides that, we will also study about the functions and duties of the Prime Minister of India. Now, since the Prime Minister is the leader of the Council of Ministers, we will also study about the Council of Ministers and the Cabinet. Just a brief introduction about central administration. We all know India has adopted a parliamentary form of democracy in the country. We have a quasi-federal system under a singular constitution, and under this constitution we have a union government and the state governments besides the local administration. Today we will dwell only on the central administration, and under the central administration we will study about the Union Executive, the President of India. Article 52 of the Constitution says that there is to be a President of India. The executive power of the Union of India, that is the central administration, rests with the President of India. He exercises it with the help of a number of other officials attached to the central government. All the union activities are taken under the name of the President of India. Now let us discuss how the President of India is elected. First, let us discuss the qualifications. As per Article 58, Clause 1, the qualifications which are required in a person to become the President of India are: he needs to be the citizen of India, he should be 35 years or above of age, and he must be qualified to be the member of the House of People. Any such person who has these qualifications can stand for the election of the president. The person who stands for the post of the President of India should not be holding any office of profit under the center, state, or local government. The President of India is indirectly elected by an electoral college. This electoral college consists of the elected members of both the houses of the parliament, the elected members of state legislative assemblies, the elected members of the legislative assemblies of Delhi as well as Puducherry take part in the elections of the President of India. The President of India is indirectly elected by a system of election. Under this, instead of the usual system where a candidate marks against the name of a single candidate, in the case of the President, the system known as proportional representation by means of a single transferable vote is followed. Under this, instead of marking a single preference in front of a candidate of the choice of the MP or the MLA, he marks an order of preference. This is done to ensure that any candidate who gets elected to the post of the president achieves the electoral quota. The formula for determining, now since the MPs and the MLAs both vote for the elections, but the number of people an MP represents is much more than the number of people an MLA represents. So, the vote of an MP and MLA is given a particular weightage. This weightage for the MLA is equal to population of the state divided by the number of elected MLAs of the state assembly, further divided by 1000. And in the case of the MP, the value of the vote is the total votes assigned to the elected members of the legislative assemblies of all the states divided by the number of elected members of both the houses of the parliament. By this method, the value of the votes of an MP and an MLA is determined. After determining the value of the votes, then electoral quota is found out. Electoral quota, all the valid votes polled is divided by 2 and 1 is added. So, any candidate who gets 50% plus 1 vote is elected as the President of India. The term of office. The President of India stays in the office for a period of 5 years. Before 5 years, he can resign or he can be removed. The removal process of the President is known as impeachment. Now let us discuss what is the impeachment process. The impeachment process, the motion, can be introduced in either house of the parliament. The initiating house frames the charges which are signed by 1/4 of the members of any house, and 14 days of notice is given to the president. Then it is passed by 2/3 of majority in that house and goes to the second house. The second house investigates the charges. The president can either personally or with the help of his representative defend the charges in front of the house. If the charges are proved and the motion is put to vote and the other house also passes the motion with 2/3 of majority, the president stands impeached. Now let us discuss the powers and functions of the President of India. The first power is that all the functions, all the powers of the executive at the central level is in the hands of the President of India. He is also the chief commander, the supreme commander of the defense forces of India. He has a very important role to play in the international affairs. Besides these powers, he has a big role to play in legislation. It is the President of India who calls the sessions of both the houses of the parliament within 6 months. He is the one who has the power to dissolve the lower house. He is the one who addresses both the houses of the parliament as soon as the lower house is reconstituted after general elections. Even at the beginning of each year, he can address either of the houses separately or both the houses jointly. The President of India has a right to send messages to both the houses of the parliament. He also has the power to nominate 12 members to the Rajya Sabha, the upper house, and 2 members to the lower house, that is the Lok Sabha. Financial powers. The President of India causes the annual financial statement to be laid in front of the house. Besides this, he also lays the report of the Comptroller and Auditor General of India and the recommendations of the Finance Commission, which he constitutes every 5 years. The President of India has power over state legislations as well. A governor can reserve the bill for the consideration of the President. Nowadays, the governments take recourse to ordinances, and the President has power to promulgate ordinances whenever the Parliament is not in session. The President also has the power to pardon in case of death penalty, in case of court-martial, and offences made under law in the union and the concurrent lists. The President has a number of residuary powers. like to appoint the commissions for the scheduled castes, Finance Commission, Commission on Official Languages, Interstate Council, and so on. Another major power of the president is proclamation of emergency. The Constitution provides for 3 types of emergency. The first, national emergency under Article 352. Second, President's rule in a state under Article 356. And the third emergency is financial emergency under Article 360. The President of India is a nominal head. When we discuss his position, we find that the real powers are not in the hands of the President. The President has to exercise his powers in consultation with the Council of Ministers headed by the Prime Minister of India. The next office which we will discuss today is that of the Prime Minister of India. Article 74, Clause 1 of our Constitution expressively states that the Prime Minister of India shall be at the head of the Council of Ministers. Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru was our first Prime Minister, and currently we have Shri Narendra Modi as the Prime Minister of India. Let us now discuss the appointment of the Prime Minister of India. The Prime Minister is appointed by the President of India. In fact, he calls the leader of the majority party in the parliament, that is the Lok Sabha, to form the government. And if there is no leader of a majority party, that is, if there is no majority party, then he may call the leader of the coalition group to form the government and become the Prime Minister of India. In case the coalition governments cannot be formed, he can even ask the leader of the largest party in the Lok Sabha to form the government at the central level. Let us now discuss the powers and functions of the Prime Minister of India. As soon as the leader of the majority party is appointed by the President and he becomes the Prime Minister of India, he performs a number of functions. The first and foremost is constitution of his Council of Ministers, distribution of the portfolios to the Council of Ministers. The Prime Minister of India can also remove a minister if he finds that he is not functioning as per the requirement of the Constitution of India. The Prime Minister is a leader of the nation. He is the leader of the Parliament. He is the leader of the Cabinet. He is a vital link between the President and the Cabinet. He keeps the President informed about the various decisions taken by the Prime Minister of India and his Council of Ministers. In most of the foreign-related matters, foreign policies, it is the Prime Minister who has the last say. He is the official spokesman. Besides all this, he has a role in the socio-economic development of the country. He is the leader of the party. He is the most important figure at the central government level. The Prime Minister of India has a term of 5 years, but he can be removed. In case his Council of Ministers lose the confidence of the Lok Sabha, then the Prime Minister and his Council of Ministers cease to hold office. There is a provision of no confidence motion to be brought in by the opposition parties. If the no confidence motion is passed by a simple majority of the House, then the Council of Ministers lose the position and the government goes. In case the Prime Minister feels that a confidence motion may be in the offing to remove him, he can also seek a confidence motion of the House. In case he wins the confidence motion, he remains, that is, he and his Council of Ministers remain. In case he loses the confidence motion, he and his Council of Ministers have to go. The position of the Prime Minister, when we compare it with the President of India, comes out to be that the Prime Minister is the real head of the government. It is the Prime Minister whose writ runs, and he is the one who takes all the important policy decisions regarding the functioning of the government and running the country. We have just studied about the Prime Minister of India. The Prime Minister of India heads the Council of Ministers. The Constitution also states that the Council of Ministers headed by the Prime Minister of India is to advise the President. Now let us discuss about the Council of Ministers. Article 74 of the Indian Constitution provides for a Council of Ministers. It says that there shall be a Council of Ministers to aid and advise the President, and the President functions in accordance with the advice rendered to him by the Council of Ministers. Let us now discuss the composition of the Council of Ministers. The Council of Ministers consists of three types of ministers. The Cabinet Ministers, that is the senior functionaries heading the most important departments, ministries at the central level. Second in seniority come the Ministers of State. The Ministers of State may be given an independent charge. And third in the line are the Deputy Ministers. The Deputy Ministers are never given an independent charge. They assist either the Ministers of State or the Cabinet Ministers. There used to be a time when the size of the Council of Ministers was very large. But now, after the 91st Constitutional Amendment, the size of the Council of Ministers at the central and the state level cannot be more than 15% of the strength of the House. That is, the Lok Sabha at the central level and the State Legislative Assembly at the state level. Term of office. According to Article 75, the ministers at the central level stay in their office during the pleasure of the President, and they are collectively responsible to the Lok Sabha, that is the House of People. In normal circumstances, the maximum term of the Council of Ministers is 5 years. Within this time, if they continue enjoying the majority of the Lok Sabha, they stay, but they go in case they lose the majority of the House. The most important type of ministers in the Council of Ministers are the Cabinet Ministers. Cabinet Ministers, as I stated earlier, head the most important ministries. Example, the External Affairs Ministry, the Finance Ministry, the Defense Ministry, the Railway Ministry, and so on. The Cabinet is the most important body within the Council of Ministers. It is a body consisting of 15 to 18 senior most members of the government. The Cabinet works on the principle of secrecy. The cabinet meetings are attended only by the cabinet ministers. Ministers of State with independent charge may be called to attend the cabinet meeting. Deputy ministers do not attend the cabinet meetings. Besides the principle of secrecy, the cabinet also functions under the principle of homogeneity. Though nowadays this principle is not there in practice because of the prevalence of coalition form of governments and the usual principles like it is individually responsible to the president, collectively responsible to the parliament, there is intra-cabinet responsibility, the leader of the cabinet is the Prime Minister of India, he is the link between the president and the cabinet. Conclusions. What did we study? We studied that the central administration consists of three main constituents. The President of India, who is a constitutional head or a nominal head. The Prime Minister of India, who is the real head of the country. And the Council of Ministers, including the Cabinet, the Minister of State, and the Deputy Ministers. These three constituents help in running the central government in a smooth manner. Thank you.